the chaos reigns.
All right, take two. Hello, Jessica. Or at least they call
Hi.
me. All right, Jessica, what is on your mind?
Well, I've had quite a few people to tell me to call in. I don't really have a problem with you, so
Why did they tell you to
they were
call?
telling me
Why
to
did they
call
tell you
in.
to call in then?
Well, the guy called in earlier, Don P, and he said that I was agreeing with you, and then Pearl came through, and then I switched it up. That's not true. I don't know if you've listened to it, but no, that's not true. I just gave my opinion on it. Even when Obsidian did his show yesterday with Pearl, the interview, I kept the same energy. I didn't switch it up, so I'm not really sure what's going on.
Where are you people from originally, Pearl? Nigeria, the Caribbean? Where are they from?
With Pearl, my dad's from Africa. He's Nigerian.
Okay, pretty much figured that in your mom.
My mum's white.
Okay, we won't hold it against you. All right, well, the word is, though, that apparently you had some disagreements and switching up in tone where I was concerned once Pearl showed up. A lot of that going around.
Yeah, no, I feel like I kept the same energy.
Really?
I don't know if people want me to rip her head off. I know you watched Obsidian, so you saw me up there. You saw me speak to her. Well, I don't know if you did, but I presume you did. So I kept the same energy, like face to face on the panel with her. So I'm not entirely sure.
Well, just to make sure we clear the air on where that is concerned here, so that you can speak in your own words here now, as opposed to somebody else. Slavery was exaggerated.
Oh no, I said on my stream I don't agree with that. Because I said she used Roots as a reference for slavery being exaggerated, and like Roots as a movie, because the person who made the movie said that they wanted a myth for people to live by, but that's in regards to a movie. That's not in regards to slavery. So I made that clear on my stream.
Okay, but the principle itself, though, Roots being an allegory, and that's perfectly fine, that's perfectly okay. I don't think you can argue with Roots either, though. I don't even think that Roots can be argued with even as an allegory.
Mm-hmm.
A Christmas Carol was an allegory, but it's not really one you can argue with either, and it has fanciful elements to it. So the only way you would argue with it is if you're a person who believes, to hell with the poor.
Yeah, I'm not trying to argue with it. I'm not trying to argue.
Why is it that Pearl has found so many black folks, usually of immigrant backgrounds, in London who have been so pliable and so amenable to her?
I can't speak to that one directly.
Really? Okay, let's
I
not
think
do it. Really? We want to go out like that? Really?
honestly, I think she's giving them a job, so they're taking the job.
Okay, but you don't think that's indicative of the rank and file of their class over there?
The rank and file Nigerian.
Yeah, I mean, you throw a penny in a crowd and you can find plenty of folk there who are willing to buck dance for her over there. She's had no problem getting people who work for her, people to join her in the studio, people to get on microphones. She's had no problem doing that.
I don't knock them for it, because a job is a job, you know.
Okay,
Whether
Jessica,
they want to think
now just to be
about
sure here, are you sure you did not refer to me as a race hustler?
Do you know what? No, I don't think I did. I don't think I did.
You don't think you did.
No.
But you're not sure that you didn't.
I can't say for sure. I can't.
Yeah, that's very interesting. these individuals from these backstabbing cultures, honesty is something they grapple with. Would you like to take a little bit of time to think it over?
I literally can't say for sure. I can't say for sure.
Oh, so you're
Yeah.
not certain. So what part of me strikes you as a race hustler then? Well, what do you define as a race hustler?
A race hustler would be someone who plays on racial issues in order to progress themselves.
Okay, and how do I play on racial issues to progress myself?
Do you know what? I will say this. One thing I do remember speaking about in the stream is that there were certain things that Pearly said and you added words to it that weren't there. So that I did speak on.
I added context, but I did not add anything that wasn't there. She meant what she said. She was not referring to white people. And the fact that it's corroborated that when she talked about being late, Nick Fuentes was the one who said he's Italian and he's late. She was the one who interjected blackness in lateness, where even Nick didn't do that. That constitutes a train of thought. So these are a bunch of tropes and stereotypes that run in conjunction with each other. You're trying to sit up here and say that they don't? You start.
No, in regards
I hear the little pitter patter of tap dancing shoes going on.
In regards to the being late, yeah, she specified black people, right? But when she was talking about the immigrants and the hard workers versus non-hard workers, she just said Americans versus the Africans that she works with.
Yeah, thank you, but she's referring to Africans. That's the point. She was already making it a racial thing. And then are you saying that was disconnected from everything else she said later? That sounds irrational. That's a person really trying to reach to disconnect it because they're trying to minimize her racial attitude. Oh, well, about the folks because what you're trying to do here, you're a little sensitive about it because they have this myth that they try to create among the immigrants that they're harder working, but the hardworking people don't have to flee. Hardworking people stay where they are and build where they are, even against an animosity government. So they have a myth that they keep trying to build and perpetuate. But no, ma'am, she meant what she said. And that's why when it came back to that later, it was racialized. Nick Fuentes literally sat there and said, oh, well, they're certainly harder working than black Americans are. Now, if she didn't mean it that way, if she wasn't referring to black people, why didn't she push back or clarify on that when he said that?
No, and after he said that, they both started giggling with each other.
Okay, but I asked a different question. I asked if she wasn't referring to black people the first time, why didn't she push back against him when he specifically cited, oh, well, these black folk are harder working than those black folk? Why didn't she sit there and say, oh, no, that's not right?
Because she didn't disagree. She didn't push back on anything.
Thank you. She didn't. And at no time did they refer to white Americans. Now, I can show you where they specifically referred to black Americans. Not one place can you show me where they referred to white Americans in a negative.
No, that's true.
Okay, so when you sit up here and try to do this dishonesty of saying that, oh, well, she didn't say erase the first time, that's you trying to cover for white mommy.
No, I'm just reacting as I go, right? So I'm listening to the clip, I'm reacting as I go. So I'm like, okay,
I don't know why everybody wants to tell that lie. Everybody wants to tell the same lie that they just heard it for the first time when they were all on the stream.
No, I did.
Everybody wants to act like they heard it the first time on the stream. All of you heard it beforehand. Otherwise, you never would have wanted to talk to Pearl in the first place. If you hadn't heard it before the stream started, it's irrational that you want to talk to her because you don't know what you're there to talk to her about. Let me just get caught on the fly.
No.
That's crazy.
So I did a stream on it, right? Then I joined Obsidian's live interview. So those were two separate things. What they're talking about is the stream that I did reviewing it. When I did that stream, I'm just reviewing it as I go. Now, when I actually got to Obsidian's, that's when I had the foresight of having seen the whole thing.
And you're on here with me and you're saying that, well, you added things to it. You just said that with me just now on Zoom now. So that's not something from last night. That's something from right now.
Yeah, because you were asking what I said.
Yes, I didn't add anything.
And that's what I said in that
The only thing I added to it was context, because anything else would be a distortion.
No, when you said, did she mention white American people in there at all? You're right, she didn't.
Right, but
You're
she
right.
did mention black people. So when she was referring to being hard, not being hardworking, she was referring to black people in America. She was referring to black people in America.
After seeing it, I can see how you come to that conclusion.
Okay,
I can see it after watching the whole
I see how
thing.
you come to the conclusion. Great. I'm glad to hear that there. I can see how you come to that conclusion. That's great. Do you agree with that conclusion based on the evidence?
I could say like 80% I agree.
The banjo is playing. Y'all believe that? Can y'all believe they do a buck dance and a banjo in London? Tap dancing shoes, buck dancing and banjoing in London. They all think they're gonna get on. They think if they kiss up to mommy's ass, they all gonna get on, and it's never coming.
Like,
but they're all gonna try it.
I've been invited on her show. I've chosen not to go. So it's not about me trying to ingratiate myself with people or me trying to get in there and form alliances. If that's what I wanted, I could have done it already.
Can you give me an example? Can you give me an example of a white race hustler?
A white race hustler, the guy that was on the show with her, the Nick Fuentes guy.
Okay, what part of him is a hustler?
He's a hustler because I believe he's intentionally saying things to stir people up.
Okay, but that's not the same context. Now you're describing something different. You're talking about an agitator. That's not a hustler.
That's what I meant by it. That's what I meant by it.
That's not the same. Okay, that's not the same thing. See, when you're referring to black people, you're calling black people race hustlers. But obviously what you're trying to say is there is no white counterpart to race hustling. That's something that only a black person can be.
No. I'd say it's the same thing.
That's why I asked. Okay, but I'm not. That wasn't what you described with me. You didn't say agitator. You said someone who does it for their own gain.
Yeah, so to gain, like with Nick Fuentes, I believe what he's doing is to gain clout and popularity.
Okay, when you said that I was a race hustler, what am I trying to gain?
I feel like clout and popularity to a certain extent, yeah.
Okay, and what have I done to gain, quote, clout and popularity through exploiting race?
Like when I was listening to the stream, right, where you were saying things about Pearly, it seemed that way at the time, and that's why I said it.
I didn't say anything to gain something for myself. I specifically referenced her words. And you're saying that was somehow gaining something for me? Repeating her words and giving it context is race hustling?
But it's the context, right? Because she never said Black Americans at that time, but you said she's saying that immigrants are harder working than Black Americans when she said Americans. So the context that you added is where it becomes specific.
Right, but that's not race hustling, ma'am. That's literally not the definition of race hustling. That's literally not the definition. I'm not gaining anything.
You can call it agitating. That's the word that you wanted to use, whatever, adjective that you want to put there.
Okay, but I don't think it's agitating either, because I'm not trying to stir up a specific race of people to have bad feelings towards another race of people. So that wouldn't qualify either. These words have meaning, Jessica. These are words these are words and terms that have specific meanings and definitions, and you're throwing them around like a monkey slinging dirt.
I'll say this, where I can take accountability on it. I haven't watched enough of your stuff to form a solid opinion, and so it was wrong of me to put that out there.
But
because
Jessica, you kind of got a rep though, don't you, Jessica?
As in,
you kind of got a rep for soft shoeing sometimes.
What do you mean by soft shoeing? I'm sorry.
You got to rep for soft shoeing and kind of buck dancing sometimes. You got to rep for that.
No, I don't think so. I think most of the time I'll stand on my square, you know, but I'm being genuine and saying that I don't feel like I watched you enough to be able to form a solid opinion. And that's even why when I got up here, I was hesitant to come up because I realized that. So I was hesitant to come up.
Here's the lesson. I know some of y'all, when white women show up, you just your heart starts fluttering and you start getting, Twitter pated, and it's just like, oh, white mommy, you start sweating and getting flustered, and you start flushing your skin. And I understand that's kind of hard to resist that. But if you don't recognize a hardcore white supremacist when you're in their presence and you don't respond emotionally, reflexively, accordingly, your life is in danger. You're the kind of chick who would go dancing off with some dude from Alabama who's visiting London and they never see you again because you're predisposed to be susceptible to that. Meanwhile, the black men who are simply reporting the news and saying that 2 + 2 = 4, you calling them race hustlers, which you know full well you're only meaning that in context of black people. You don't mean that in white people's context. You only mean that as a negative or pejorative towards black people, specifically black men. And that attitude is dangerous.
No, because like I said, I know you haven't watched the stream, but I called out Nick Fuentes for what he did.
It's not Nick. It's not Nick. This is the issue. I keep saying that you haven't heard me sit up here and say anything about you versus Nick. I'm sticking on the square. I've already said who the issue is. No, ma'am, it's you and white mommy. That's the issue. You and white mommy.
Her whiteness doesn't mean anything to me.
It was enough. It was enough for you to start deciding to call folks race hustler. You and Obsidian kind of had that in common.
No, that wasn't about her. Okay. That's more.
It was about her because you wanted to try to minimize her racism. And what you did, it wasn't even factually accurate. All I did was provide context because that is a trope. When she said that, those are white supremacist. This is something I want you to remember here, Jessica. These might be new to you all over there. These are white supremacist code words. So the reason for a code word is an individual who does not want to believe something. When you throw out a code word, it's supposed to give them plausible deniability. Oh, well, I never said I was talking about black people. I could be talking about all Americans. Yeah, but as the conversation progressed, it was never isolated to white people, not as a negative. As the conversation progressed, it only distilled down to anti-black. Which is what the moment she said immigrants working harder than Americans, the moment she said that, I said she's talking about black people. Now, remember, that was earlier in the interview. The rest of that comes after she said that. So she started with immigrants work harder. And I said, hey, she's talking about black people. Well, if I was wrong in that assumption, then why is it that as the interview progressed, it narrowed down the focus to targeting and demeaning black Americans? If my first assumption was wrong, then how was I able to accurately call where it went?
No, and that's why as I watched the stream, I realized what was going on. And by the time that I came into Obsidian's interview, I had a lot more to kind of form my opinion on and my stance on Obsidian's.
Is Pearl a white supremacist?
A white supremacist? I don't know if I'd say that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you got your tap shoes on. She literally sat up there and said the black folk are lazy. She literally sat up there and said that slavery was exaggerated. She literally sat there and said that black immigrants in the UK, that all of you, people like you, are always late, which is a euphemism for lazy. Yeah, y'all, white mommy, she's like, Jason, she tried to act before as if she was being mischaracterized. As soon as I said, hey, is white mommy a white supremacist? I don't know about that.
No, I'd say she's ignorant. A white supremacist? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about
that. Which part of what she said and did is not white supremacist?
Because in my mind, white supremacists believe that they're superior. They want some sort of harm towards black people. I
Okay,
don't think that she wants harm towards black
is
people.
keeping you in a position of subjugation harm?
Subjugation how?
Ma'am, keeping you economically deprived, keeping you economically and socially oppressed, keeping you in a police state where your rights can be deprived at any time. Is that harming you? Wow.
I don't know about all of that.
Have you ever had a white boyfriend?
No.
I don't believe you. You're lying.
It's
You're
hard.
Lying. You're lying. I don't believe that at all. You're lying. I'm just going to tell you right now, you're lying. No, there's a white dude. There's a white dude who done gripped them butt cheeks over there by the Tower Bridge. There's a white dude over there who done gripped them butt cheeks near the Tower Bridge. So no, ma'am. No, that's not going to fly. When you're this resistant to something that's so obvious, that's because you're compromised. So you're sitting up here, you're describing every characteristic of a white supremacist. And then when I say, is this a white supremacist? You pull back and, oh no, I don't know about that. I don't know. You heard everything she said. What part of that is not a white supremacist? Well, I mean, you know, as I said, this is the kind of little goofy chick who a white man will be able to talk her into going off anywhere by herself. And that'll be the last time you see her because she wants to sit up here and pretend that she doesn't see what's in front of her. And usually when you pretend to be dumb long enough, you actually become it. Eventually, you're going to do something you shouldn't do. She's sitting up here acknowledging this woman's spouting white supremacist talking points, multiple ones in one conversation. But when you ask her, is that a white supremacist? I don't know. What kind of person who's not a white supremacist says that black people are lazy, black people are late, black slavery was exaggerated? What type of non-white supremacist white person talks like that, Jessica?
An ignorant one?
Okay, you're calling it ignorance. At what point does it become racism?
I believe it's racism if you feel that you're superior or you look down on.
And what she said does not qualify to you as looking down on black people?
In terms of the not working as hard, yeah.
In terms of they're always late, in terms of slavery, we don't need reparations because you're blaming other people. In terms of slavery was exaggerated. Exaggerated by whom? Oh, exaggerated by you.
You guys have, like, you call it CPT time, right? CP time. Over here, we call it African time. It's known that, like, it's an inside joke that
it's an inside joke. It's an inside joke for white people to join in on.
That's why I said to her that I don't think she should speak on it.
Okay, I don't think she should speak on that. So you're not going to go to the point of saying she's racist. It's just, oh, well, I think it's inappropriate for you to speak. It's just a joke. So you don't take actual offense to it, not on a racial standpoint.
In terms of the being late?
She's literally sitting up here using code words to call you nigga, and you sitting up here trying to be an apologist and explain it away. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. When we talk about the dangers of the tether class, this is what we mean right here. She's literally sitting up here trying to explain away. This white supremacist is using all the words, and she's sitting up here. Well, it's not racist. It's ignorant. Ignorant means that a person doesn't know what they're doing, Jessica. So you're saying that she said all of that, but she doesn't actually understand its racial and historical context?
I mean, someone can think that they're right and be ignorant at the same time.
Jessica, are you saying that Pearlie did not understand the racial and historical context of what she was saying?
No, I think she did, right? And
okay, then how is that? You can't be ignorant and understanding.
No, but it's like you can still think that you're right, but be ignorant.
But what you can't be is both ignorant and understanding. This has nothing to do with whether you think you're right. You just said that she understands the racial and historical context of her words. At that point, you can no longer argue ignorance. Now, you can say the person's in error, but you can't argue that they're ignorant.
Yeah,
Things got real quiet.
because I don't know what to say,
How
to be
old
honest.
are you, Jessica?
28.
You are too damn old to be this silly. You are too
Yeah,
damn old to be,
but
now this with the behavior you're doing, you're too damn old to be this obstinate. In the face of raw white supremacy, you're sitting up here trying to be an apologist and argue away about it. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous because other black females and other black people will hear you acting this silly and they'll sit up here and follow up behind it because they think that you have some knowledge or understanding that they don't, that the situation's not that bad and it's not that dangerous. They'll sit up here and listen to you and you'll mislead them. You're hearing white supremacy, but you're refusing to call it white supremacy. So you're telling everybody that's not white supremacy. So when they hear that or something 5 degrees worse than that, they'll say that that's not white supremacy either. Then it all becomes, quote, ignorance. So she's just
yeah,
erased the definition of racism and white supremacy altogether.
you can tell I don't do these conversations.
You don't have to do the conversation. You were born it. You don't have to learn the conversation, man. Weren't you born black?
Yeah, but I haven't really had any racial situations, if I'm being honest.
No, you've just dismissed them. You've met them multiple times. You just dismissed them. You're 28 years old. Let me ask you a question. How much do you make a year at 28 years old with your cute little face?
Not enough. Not enough.
That's not a number. How much do you make a year?
I have to give the exact amount?
You can give me within 5,000 pounds.
Okay, I'll say in pounds.
And if you're going to lie, make it good because I got follow-up questions. So if you're going to lie, make it good.
Under 40.
Okay. Do you think that do you think that the average white female Londoner makes 40,000 pounds a year at 28 years old?
No.
You don't think that's because of race?
No, I think this.
I literally just asked you a racial question. I literally just asked you a racial question. Are you black? Yes. How much do you make a year? 40,000 pounds. Do you think the average white female Londoner makes 40,000 pounds? Oh, no. Do you think it's because of race? No, I don't think so.
No, because the average person earns less. Like, I earn about the average, and that's for, like, people of all age groups.
Ma'am, there's no way in the world that you make more than the average white female Londoner. That's just not possible. The poverty and racial wage gap dynamic is the same in the UK as it is in the US. What are you trying to pull? What are you trying to pull?
I kind of earn about average, to be honest. That's men and women, all ages, all races.
You think that you're telling us that the average that you make more than you just said you make more than the average 28-year-old white female Londoner?
Yeah. I'm sure if I got the specific number, it would be more.
I'm sure if we made up the specific number, it'd be more.
I mean, I can go look for it. I don't know
ma'am,
off my head.
Ma'am, what do you have a degree in?
Numbers.
What do you have a degree in?
Business and finance.
Okay. 28 years old. There's not very much you can do with a degree in business and finance at 28 years old.
I mean, I'm doing okay.
You think you're doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I mean, I could do better. Obviously, okay. I want to do better, but...
Everyone, if you want to go and look it up for yourselves, you can see that the median annual earnings in the UK, median mean for London is 41,000. South End is 34,000. East is 32,000. Any more questions?
I didn't really have any questions. I just wanted to.
Right.
People asked me to call in, so
right.
I did it.
So here's my thing. Even if we take into account a median of around, let's just say 30,000 pounds. Let's just go ahead and say that. Around 30,000 pounds. Do you think that the average white female Londoner is living on 30,000 pounds a year?
Depending on age, because I think that plays a factor. No,
I'm talking about the age that you are now.
You say earns like 30,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'd say around that. Yeah, somewhere close to it.
Okay. According to Varbs.com, female wages in London average 48,838 pounds. Male wages average 63,719.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that you make 40.
Yep.
You don't see a problem.
Well, most of the people in that category are going to be older because there's going to be people in their 30s.
Yeah, but the thing
40s,
is,
50s,
but according to you, you're a working professional with a degree. According to you,
mm-hmm.
Right? You're 28 years old. When did you get your degree?
2000 and the late 2000 teens, I'll say. I don't want to say specifically when.
Okay, 2016.
A bit later.
Okay, 2019.
I don't want to give the specific year.
Ma'am, do you think that shows something? That's been 4 years, ma'am. What do you think you're supposed to be doing in 4 years?
Working like I am.
Yes, ma'am. There's my point. Yes, ma'am. You've had your degree now. You've been in the workforce for 4 years. That's my point.
Yeah.
Every time I bring you an incontrovertible,
decent for my age.
If you don't compare yourself to your white female counterparts, I'm sure it is.
Even compared to them,
yes,
I'm actually
ma'am.
doing pretty decent for my age. I'm not doing bad.
Which part of London do you live in?
I don't know. I don't want to say where I live.
Ma'am,
I don't know why
you don't have to say the street.
So hard.
Ma'am, you don't have to say the street. You can tell us what part of London you live in. London has a lot of parts.
I don't want to do that.
She doesn't want to. She doesn't want to say what part. She doesn't want to say what part of London she lives in. Man, first of all, if I wanted to, I could just get enough people to tell me where you live at. So I mean, that's not a big issue there. I'm just asking you to be nice. But folks, they're saying she sounds like she's from West London. She sounds like she's from West London. She's trying to conceal herself, but she sounds like she's from West London.
I can sound like I'm from wherever. I don't get the point that you're trying to make.
Because
you're trying to convince me that I'm poor.
Folks in London know that it takes different incomes. For example, the difference between Essex and Sussex. There's a difference between those things. So how much those geographic locations literally tell people how much money the person makes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't think a Yankee knew that. I'm not a Yankee. I'm from the Southern.
I'm
not a Yankee. I'm from the Southern United States, but you all get the point. No, you didn't think I knew that. But by the way,
I told him in London.
The geographic place, London. People in London know this. That the geographic place that you're from over there, they can actually tell you how much money you make simply by knowing where you're at.
Yeah. I would say this: to stay in London, you have to make a certain amount. It's not cheap. So even though you're trying to convince me that I'm poor, I'm not.
Ma'am,
poor.
I'm not trying to. I never said anything about what your income is or isn't. I didn't say that. I did not say any such thing. I simply said in comparison to your white female counterparts.
Even in comparison, I'm doing okay. I am. Trust me.
So she claims. Although remember, I said within $5,000. So you got to figure she's fudging her numbers by about
35,000.
You got to figure she's fudging her numbers by about 10,000. She's fudging her numbers by about 10,000 pounds. Actually, I'm pretty much feeling sure that's what it is.
I'm not. I don't need to. I could have come on here and said that I made 80,000 a year. I could have lied.
And that would have been. First of all, that would have been preposterous. considering the fact that in London, in the UK, £80,000 would be the equivalent of our US six-figure salary. So
Around that, yeah.
that would be insane for you at 28 years old with a finance degree to claim they're doing that. So you'd have to find a different degree. You'd have to name a different degree in a different age, because you said you've only had it now for 4 years. So you'd have to pick a different career and a different degree and a different age.
No, what I'm saying is I told you the truth, and then you're trying to tell me that I'm basically like poor.
I never said that. You're very sensitive about that. I didn't say you're poor. I said compared to your white female counterparts.
Compared to my white female counterparts, I can assure you I'm doing just fine.
Is Pearl a racist?
I can see why people would call her racist.
I'm asking you. I'm not asking people. I'm asking you.
I'd say her views are some of them are racist, yeah.
Okay, can you have racist views and not be a racist?
No.
I hope you'll take some time to reflect on some of the lack of character you've displayed tonight.
I don't know what lack of character I have. I mean,
I think you're young, but you are too old to be this silly. I want you to take some. I'm being nice and being diplomatic right now. I'm not being caustic. I'm serious. You need to take some time to sit, because you're going to look back on this interview here, this phone call tonight, in 6 months or a year, and you are going to be horribly embarrassed by the answers you gave. Hell, you're probably going to look back on it tomorrow and be horribly embarrassed that you literally sat here in front of thousands and thousands of people and told them somebody saying slavery is exaggerated, black people are lazy, and that immigrants will work harder than you native people do, except when they're black, that's not racist, and that, well, I'm not sure if that's white supremacist. I'm not sure. I can only imagine how many other insults you would sit up here and shrug off and say, well, that's not white supremacist or racist either. I can only imagine what other slave play type of insults you'd be subjected to, and you'll just dismiss those too. And they'll just be laughing at you. I would say they're laughing at you behind your back, but in your case, they might have to laugh. They might be able to get away laughing at you in your face, and you'll just be sitting there, oh, hi, oh, tea and crumpets, huh? That's not something to be proud of. That is not something to be proud of. People want in this
situation is either
candor, honesty. Don't insult people's intellect. Don't insult people's intelligence. That's all people want. People do not want you insulting their intelligence. That's what they don't want.
There's two sides from it. There's two sides of it from what I'm seeing. Right?
Tell me the other side of white supremacy. I see white supremacy. I see white supremacy. What's the other side that you see?
I'm talking about how people are reacting to the situation.
Yes, I see white supremacy. What is the quote other side? You said there's two sides. I only see one side.
The other side
What's the other one?
Is white savior, right? So it's either like Pearlie can do no wrong. Pearlie's saying what she said was no problem. Or on the other side, it's like Pearlie's the most evil person in the world. I
don't know if she's the most evil person in the world, but I do know white supremacy and racist when I see one. And you're claiming that you don't see that. You're claiming that you don't see that. It feels like
that's what people want from me, and because I'm not doing it, people on both sides are upset.
What it means is everybody needs to know where you stand, so that they know within the company of white supremacists, they know the folk they can trust, and then they know the people they can't trust.
If you don't trust me, then you don't trust me. I gave my views on my stream. I gave my views to Pearlie when I was on Obsidians. If you don't trust me, then
you've made your point very clear that I think she said some racial things, but white supremacists, I'm not so sure. Are you sure you don't want to try to clarify that now before you go?
No.
Okay. Remember, you've made your choice.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having the conversation. Yeah.
And watch your back.
I'm calling from Wolverhampton, UK.
All right. Jessica says ain't no racism over there, so I'm glad you called in to corroborate that there's no racism and I got it wrong. So
You are 100% correct, Jason. I mean, I listened to the first 15 minutes of this broadcast and I went to sleep and I woke up about 45 minutes ago just to hear the whole broadcast, and I'm surprised you're still on. But I only got on a few minutes before she came on, and, you know, I was just completely furious listening to her because she's giving a poor representation of Black British people. You know, I'll just say this, that, you know, if we were to draw up a league table of Black people on planet Earth that put in work, number one would be African Americans, FBA. Number two will be Black British. You know, this kind of coon behavior, it's not indicative of black people in the UK. You know, we put in work. You know, you Google, I mean, I'm born and raised in a place called Tottenham,
Brixton.
Yeah.
Folk forgot, brother. I was covering that when it happened in Brixton. We was cheering over here about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm born and raised in Tottenham, and everybody in the UK listening now knows Tottenham has a reputation for two things. Number one, the football team, with that brand new stadium where, you know, they now have American football games. Number two is riots. You know, we turn up and, you know, and we know what racism is. We know what racism is. So if a Black British person tells you, you ask them direct questions, you 100% correct, Jason. She knows what racism is, and she knows what Just Pearly Things does is racist, and what she says is racist. I mean, it's just textbook racism. A white person can't make it in America. They come to the UK, they surround themselves with coons, and then they play the puppet master. You know, and then when she's trying to explain herself, she's trying to say she's apologized for bringing Nick Fuentes on. The problem is not bringing on and interviewing white supremacists. That doesn't make you a white supremacist, Jason. You interviewed Jared Taylor. You interviewed Richard Spencer in those videos that I have in my house. That doesn't make you a coon by interviewing those people. It's the context of the interview, the behavior of the interview. When the guy was spouting racist nonsense, she was giggling along with him. And then she added her own by, you know, talking about slavery, talking about Black people being late. That wasn't Nick Fuentes that said that. That was her. And that's on her. And that's the problem I have with her.
Yeah, if she had just simply talked to him and said nothing,
yes,
when she said that, I wouldn't have a leg to stand. Well, I would have less of a leg to stand on right now. If she had just simply let him speak and said nothing, at least Adam 22 was smart enough to do that with Richard Spencer and Destiny. Now, what Adam messed up at was when he prefaced it about, well, I don't see why Richard Spencer was so bad. I read the SPLC website. I mean, that's where he messed up at. But for her, she literally would have been a lot better off if she had just simply said nothing. So the real question comes in, so why was she unable to say nothing?
Correct, because she got comfortable, Jason. You know, me and you are similar age. I turned 50 a week ago. And, you know, I'm born and raised in the UK. I went to school with these people.
50, this dude looked about 32.
You know, and, you know, but I follow the principles that you talk about, you know, make yourself strong, look after yourself, study, you know, build yourself as, you know, what you would call the peak value man. That's something I live by. That's something I work by. I mean, you know, I've contributed to your broadcast by doing the IT workshop. For people who don't know, I'm the guy, Robert, from the UK.
Robert, wow. Yeah. Okay, y'all, I've never actually met Robert like this. This is Robert. Okay, well, it's good to see you, brother. I didn't know all this information. Look here. By the way, Obsidian, take notes. O'Shea, take notes, although I doubt it'll ever do you any good, but take them anyway.
No, but I mean, we know racism in the UK. I mean, for people in America who don't really understand what happens here, the main difference between the UK and the US is the gun laws. The racism is exactly the same. They treat us exactly the same as they treat you over there. It's just that most of the police here don't have guns. That's why they don't shoot us by the roadside. But it happens, you know. They treat us the same in schools. They lock us out of the workplace. You know, we're the last hired, the first fired. It's exactly the same in the UK. And it's to a certain degree, it's worse here because at least you guys are 13% of the population. You have numbers. We are like 3%, 4%, if that. I mean, growing up, we were 1% of the population. And it's not just, you know, the white people who gang up on us. It's other non-white people that gang up on us. You know, I don't know if you're aware, Jason, but, you know, this country is run by people from Asia, like as in our prime minister, our home secretary, which is the same as your secretary of state. They're trying to deport black people to Rwanda.
Correct.
You know, we've got black people here who are British citizens that they're trying to deport. Google the Windrush scandal.
Yeah.
You know, that's how they treat us here. So for a black British person, when you ask her direct questions about racism, she's acting like she doesn't know. She knows.
You know, people over here in the States, folks have a misconception that, for example, where immigration is concerned, that you all are more liberal about it over there than we are over here. Folks don't understand. They're literally, I was talking about this on my other YouTube channel. They're gathering up the black folks, the black immigrants over there. If you're illegals, they're gathering them up over there. Forget stopping them at the border. They're like, oh, you got through? Get your ass on this plane over there. It's going down over there in Britain right now. And he's absolutely right. What's his name? Sundon. I forget his name. Sundon, the prime minister.
Richie Sunak.
Yeah, I'm about to say Sunak. Okay, I'm saying Sundon. But so how close I'm keeping track of it. But yeah, I mean, he slid right into position. So you know what this means. He's here to show the Anglos that he ain't here to rock the boat. He wants to have a place in history, and he's here to show the Anglos, hey, I'm not here to rock, nut, challenge anything. I'm here to uphold it. And he's off to a fantastic start.
But the thing is, Jason, he's not even the worst. We've had home secretaries here. The first one was Priti Patel. She was terrible. And now we have another one called Suella Braverman. I mean, you think Kamala Harris is bad. You want to look at some of the politicians, like the Indian politicians we have here. They're worse. They're 100 times worse than Kamala Harris. I mean, we've got things where migrants will get on a boat from France and try and come across the English Channel. These people are trying to send the boats back and have people drown at sea if they got their way.
Folks have forgotten their history, brother. They forget the East India Company. They've forgotten their history, or they don't even know it because they don't teach it to them. So when you realize that India, basically, the story of Mahatma Gandhi, if they don't know anything about the history at all, that is basically a suburb of England. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's really bad out here. So, you know, some of these, there's something you've said, Jason, with regards to, you know, Pearly things surrounding herself with black people. White supremacists know how to pick their coons. And she's picked a whole bunch of coons around her. They're doing all the work because she says that she hires these people, she pays them well. And, you know, these are all coons she's hired. And there's, you know, most of the black people here watching this and just shaking our heads like, you know, why are we even, like you said, why do we even let these people come amongst us? You know, that's the crime. You can't really blame her because she is what she is. But the real problem is with us. We're letting these people come around us and we know what they're going to do.
But wait, there's more.
They act cool when they come through the door, but we know what they're going to do. They're going to take over and they're going to make money out of us. And then they're going to disrespect us. You know, you can't hate people for being what they are. You can only hate yourself for allowing yourself to get taken by them. You know, as Africans, we've been taken for the last 600-700 years. They came, they take our people, they take our resources, and they dominate us. And we know, you know, the history book tells you this. So when she comes through the door, she's going to do what her ancestors done, what they all do to us. And that's the sad thing. And then you had this young lady on, Jessica knows, you know, she's trying to play this Meghan Markle type of, you know, oh, I don't really know racism. I've never really, you know, she said something like, I've never really had a racial incident. Of course, she's had people in her, as a mixed black person living in the UK, half her family probably don't accept her. You know, so.
Well, Jessica, for some reason, has checked back in with us here, Jessica.
Because I feel like the conversation is a bit disingenuous. I never said that racism doesn't exist.
You said you never encountered it.
Yeah, like me being
okay.
Out
Then
there
that's saying it
publicly,
doesn't exist. Then if you're saying you never encountered it,
no. It means that I haven't faced it
how
myself.
did you become so special
That's
in a
a
place that's
stretch.
endemic, where it's saturated with racism over there? How did you become so special?
Because as a woman and a man, you're
And a
going to have
biracial, a woman, a man, and a biracial.
Yes.
You're a
Yes,
biracial.
if you let me finish, my experience as a woman, my experience being mixed is going to be different to that of the man that's up. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. The man that's up here right now. So if you wanted to, we could have got into the nuances of all of these things, but you weren't interested in hearing the nuances. You just wanted to catch me in a gotcha moment. And like
repeating your words is a gotcha moment, really?
I said that I personally haven't had somebody be racist to me. I haven't.
Robert, does that sound accurate to you?
Does that mean that racism doesn't exist? Does that mean that I haven't seen other people go through it? Of course not.
Jessica, look, we're both British here, so you're speaking to someone who's lived the same experience as you.
That's why I came up.
Okay, as you know, Jessica, we have a massive mixed race population in the UK. Massive, yeah? As you know, mainly black men and white women. You could go to, even outside London, Jason, you go to Bristol, you go to Cardiff, you go to Liverpool, it's full of mixed people. And for you Americans, watch English soccer. Turn on the TV and watch English soccer, and you see the number of mixed race people playing football. We have a massive mixed population. And you, as a mixed person, you know that you speak to your dad, you speak to your mum. When your mum got pregnant with you, you know that there were people in the white side of your family that didn't accept you. You know that.
I've spoken about this on my channel. I've spoken about this before. It's not something that I deny.
Okay, but you just told us that you just told us you never encountered it.
Then no. That was the situation with my parents, right? So we're talking about what I faced out there. Now, that's why he said if we wanted to have a conversation, you could have asked me questions. I would have answered.
No, you could have answered honestly the first time. You have encountered racism in your own family.
No. Yeah, my mum had problems with my granddad. Yeah.
No, we're saying that you have experienced family members who have not accepted you.
No. But was there tension in the beginning? Yeah, when they got together, there was. And that's why I've told people when they speak about passport bros and they want to go to Italy, I've said before, Italy is a very racist country. Very racist country. So when
but
people
just not
came
where you are. Okay, but just not where you are.
No, but that's my lineage. Right?
Italy is racist, but London isn't.
It doesn't compare. So
it's not as bad.
In Italy, the way people will treat you is that they will openly call you names. And I saw it on an extent that I've never seen in London, right? So there's levels to it. But to act like I'm outright denying that racism exists, that's not what I was doing. So I feel like that's not right.
Okay, Jessica, can I just jump in here? A couple of things here. When you was, and what me and Jason is saying about you not saying racism exists. We're not saying that you deny racism exists. The examples he gave you of racism, you were acting like you weren't sure whether that's racism. In the UK, people don't run around. I mean, I'm a lot older than you. I'm old enough to remember things like the BNP and the NF, yeah, when they were actually, putting graffiti through, on people's walls. I'm old enough to know that you're a fair bit younger than me. You're the same age as like my children, my nieces and nephews. So you never went through it. And like as you growing up, it's very rare for people to throw the N-word around and racially abuse you directly. But you know how they treated us going to school. Because and I know it still happened because you're only 3 years older than my oldest daughter. So you're her age. And I know the insidious racism that happens. You know how it happens here. They don't come out directly and call you names. They don't directly come out and say, I'm going to treat you like this because you're black. But going to school, you do something wrong, you go out with your white friends, you'll do something wrong. When you get caught, you get treated harshly than them. You get punished more harshly than them. There's the little racism moves they pull here. Because the thing in Britain, they're very, very clever the way they do it. And they always give themselves an out. But us as black people, when it happens to us, we know it happens. And when you're talking about levels between Italy and the UK, there was a story in the news, Jason, I don't know if you're aware, but the police came in to a school in Hackney and strip searched a schoolgirl, claiming that she had guns or knives or drugs. You've heard that story, Jessica, yeah? Yes?
I haven't heard that story. No, I haven't heard that story in particular. But okay. I've said that institutionally, there's racism out here, right? There's racism in the fact that, let's take the police force, for example. They say that Black people commit more crimes. And you know the stop and search rules over here, right? And they say that they stop and search Black people more because Black people carry more. Well, if you're stopping 7 times as many Black people, well, probability is you're going to catch more Black people with stuff. It doesn't mean that Black people are doing things more. It just means that you're searching them more.
They're not catching them with stuff though, Jessica, please. Let's be honest here. They're not catching them with stuff because 90% of the stop and searches, they find nothing.
Yeah. No. But I'm saying that if you're stopping people more frequently...
I know, but even though they're stopping more frequently, they're being disingenuous. You know, if you stop 1,000 people and you find one person with a knife, yeah, that doesn't mean that it's, and these things go deeper as well. Because again, I grew up in a rough area. The police know who the criminals are and they let them roam free. And it's the regular people like me and you, well, like me who don't commit crimes that get stopped and harassed by the police. Yeah. So it's more to it than that. I don't know if you don't know, and maybe you need to educate yourself. But this is, you know, I think you need to educate yourself more on racism. I don't know where you live. I'm trying to work out your accent. And I think
I'm from London.
Okay, well, which part?
Born and
raised.
Just give an area.
I don't want to say the area on here.
Jessica, London's.
Do you know how many threats I've received on the internet? I'm not giving out my location.
Yeah, but Jessica, even if you say somewhere like Harsden, Enfield, Brixton, no one can find you there. Number one, the area's too big. So no one, you know, the people who are determined to find you, Jessica, will find you without you saying which part of London.
I've been okay so far. No, I don't need to say where I live. I get what you're saying. The point I'm making about the stop and search is because people will use police numbers, right? They'll use police numbers about the amount of things that are found during stop and searches. And they'll say that to say, okay, to try and justify why they should search more Black people. But if you're stopping 7 times as many, and we're not even accounting for population size of how many Black people there are compared to white people, you are hugely, disproportionately choosing to search Black people, right? That's racism right there.
Okay, but here's the issue. You're talking about those anecdotally. What we're talking about is your personal experience. And what you said is that your personal experience is that you have never encountered racism in London.
I've never been stopped and searched by the police. I've never had anything like that. I haven't.
Have you ever been subjected to racism in your 28 years of living in London?
No, but I've seen it around me.
That's literally like saying that because it rains a lot in England. I know y'all gonna hate that I say that England, it rains a lot over there, but she's gonna say she's the only person standing outside. The rain hits everybody else except her.
No, because I've already said my experience, 1 as a woman and 2 for me being mixed, is not going to be the same as Tactical Genius's experience.
We're going to have different experiences. Are you sure you're not in denial?
Jessica, it's the same. I mean, you said you're mixed.
Come on.
Jessica, you say you're mixed, but I'm looking at your picture and you look like a light-skinned Black woman.
But then that's still affects
you know, Jessica. But
Jessica,
there's Black women who are not mixed that are your complexion or even light.
Yeah,
I know a lot of them. Remember, I grew up growing up in London. Mixed people are a dime a dozen. Even though
I'm not from your generation.
Yeah, but I know you're the same age as my kids. You're the same age as my kids. You're the same age as my nephews and nieces. I sit down and we have these conversations and they tell me, and I have children your age and I know what they go through. Born and raised in London, just like you. I know what they went through. I know what they went through. I go to the school and, for example, they bunk off school or truant, yeah? And, there's 10 of them. Maybe there's 4 Black girls and there's 6 white girls. And the punishments that they deal out to the white girls is different from the Black girls. You know, so things are different. Now things are more nuanced, but it's still the same. They still see us the same. They still treat us the same. You know, when you go for a job, if you've got the same skills, same abilities as a white person, they're getting a role. Just like me, yeah. The only reason why we're working is because they can't find a white person to do our job. You know, there's a hierarchy here. When they hire, first it's the whites. If they can't find a white person, they'll look for an Indian. If they can't find an Indian, then they consider black people. You know that you work, you say you've got your degree, you earn £40,000 a year. That's okay for a professional. But you know, when it's time for promotions, you know that they're going to be looking to promote your white counterparts before you. You know that. We all know that. We all accept that. It is what it is, which is why, you know, as Jason will say, you know, I work to help black men progress in IT because I know that the only chances we have to do anything is to be excellent. We can't be good. Even in the UK, you won't get anywhere by being good at what you do. You have to be excellent. You have to be outstanding. You have to understand that you have to be twice, 3 times as good as a white person to get anywhere. You know that. You go for jobs and you know you're the best person. You don't get the job. It's not a random coincidence.
But
you know,
I've got the job despite what like the conversation people wanted to have before. I actually have a decent job and I've got good pay. Like, you should know, being in London at my age, I have good pay.
First of all, we
we
haven't confirmed that. But second of all, even if we take it at face value, that's not the point, ma'am. Your income is not the point. Your characterization that you have not encountered racism, that's a mathematical impossibility, which simply means that you've encountered it and you're just dismissing it.
Do you want me to say that I've faced it? Because it's almost like you're trying to force me to say it.
Ma'am, what we're saying is we're not here to convince you of anything. What we're saying is that's a mathematical and physical impossibility.
How is it impossible?
Robert.
It is impossible. You know, we both live, well, I don't live in London anymore, but we both lived and grew up in that situation. And things have changed slightly between yours and my generation. But like I said, I have nephews and nieces your age. I have kids your age. I know what they've gone through. I know what they've been through. And I find it almost impossible for you to say that you haven't experienced similar things to them. And
I haven't, because when you're talking...
And some of the people in my family are mixed.
Well, the thing is, when I sat there and gave you racist white supremacist statements from Pearly Things, you said, I think that's ignorant. I don't think it's racist. So what that really means, the argument you've made for yourself is that even if you saw raw racism, you would just dismiss it.
I said racist, yes. White
no,
supremacist,
you didn't. Actually, no, you didn't. I had to drill you for about 10 minutes before you finally knuckled under and said, okay, well, maybe that's racist, but you never said white supremacist. And the reason why we use the term white supremacist, we don't even use the word racist anymore. We say white supremacist because that's what it is, and you just dismiss that out of hand. So like we say, the real issue here is that even if you saw unbridled, unadulterated white supremacy in the raw, you would just dismiss it like you do with Pearly Things.
No, because I said that what Pearly said was racist. Now,
is
white
Pearly
supremacist,
is Pearly a racist? Is Pearly Things a racist?
Yes. We said that earlier. The things that she said were racist.
Robert,
right?
This really does help that I got you on the phone. She's conceding the things she didn't say before, so having you on here has certainly helped.
I agree with you, Jason. And
you said, is she a white supremacist? I said no. You said racist.
It's the same thing, Jessica.
No, a white supremacist is walking around in KKK uniforms.
No, ma'am.
Ma'am.
You're talking about costumed extremists. White supremacy is racism. There is no racism that is not white supremacy, ma'am.
Yeah, this is honestly, it's
putting on a Ku Klux Klan. First of all, putting on a Ku Klux Klan outfit. That doesn't mean white supremacy. That's not what it is. That's a costume. If you're going to say that that's the requirement, then the police officers in Brixton cannot be white supremacists because they're not wearing KKK outfits. They're wearing police uniforms. Don't you see?
I mean, come on, Jessica. I mean, you know it. We have it in the UK. I mean, you remember the incidents with...
Is there racism here? Yeah. Was
And-
Mark Duggan's incident racist? Yes.
Right. So, you know, for people who don't know, the police stopped and shot a young black man and then made all sorts of fanciful claims about him and what he did. And they initially even claimed that he shot at them when actually one policeman shot another one. And that led to the riots of 2011 in Tottenham. Yeah. And we all saw it as racism. You know, there was a young man who, if he's alive, he would be about my age, who, you know, the person who was stabbed by a group of white boys about the best part of 30 years ago, Stephen Lawrence. You know, we have it. And these guys walked free. They ganged up, they stabbed the black boy to death on the street, and they walked free. And the police turned up and they refused to give him first aid because none of them wanted to touch a black man. And rather than trying to find these guys who had stabbed him and were just walking away across the road, they were trying to harass his friend. Yeah. So we have racism here. You know, we have white supremacy here.
Of course.
We have our paramilitaries here. Okay, they're not as flamboyant as the Proud Boys and the first, you know, the 5%ers or 3%ers or whatever they're called in America. We have that here. We have the BNP. We have the National Front. We have the EDL. You know as well as I do. Okay, they don't march in London because we have the numbers there, but they march where I live in Wolverhampton. We have in the small towns.
No, when they had the BLM protest over here after George Floyd died, the white nationalists came out and they were fighting with the BLM supporters. No, they
weren't fighting with the BLM supporters. They turned up and they got the living daylight. They were exactly. They were trying to attack the BLM supporters. And thank you for mentioning that, because this is why I came on. Because when you came on here and spoke, you gave a bad representation of black people in the UK. The main reason why I came on
he asked me if I've personally faced racism. I said no. If you want to talk about racism in general, I got you. We can talk.
Yeah, but Jessica, you know that the racists in England, they don't come and start throwing around the N-word. What they do, they come around us and start talking about African time. Now, African time is a thing, it's a concept that's global amongst black people, but that's us internally. A white person should not come around us and start talking about CP time or African time. That should be an instant slap in the face.
And I told Pearl that. I told Pearl that.
Right, that's an instant slap in the face. And you know that around most black people, if she said that, she would get her ass kicked. You know that. You know that if you lived in Tottenham, Harlesden, Brixton, you know, as we call in the UK, the ends, a white person would never dare talk like that in a room full of black people. So we as black people in the UK, you got to ask yourself that, how is it that, number one, you let her come amongst us, as Jason said. Number two, when she starts showing
I didn't let her come amongst me. What do you mean? When she invited me...
You're talking to her.
No. When she invited me to be on her show, I declined. I didn't take that offer up.
Okay, yeah, but you did talk. You did talk to him on Obsidian, so let's not do that.
So it's not about me trying to ingratiate myself or get
doing
close
a pretty
to
good
anyone,
imitation.
or trying to get like some sort of clout or anything like that. Right? I went onto Obsidian's to go and tell her what I thought of the situation.
Jessica, let me ask you about your mother's side of the family.
And so I left.
Let me ask you about your mother's side of the family. You mentioned that there was some tension as a result of your mother's side of the family.
Yes.
Okay. Which individuals on your mother's side of the family?
My granddad.
What about your uncles?
No, my granddad. My granddad.
Just your grandfather by yourself? He was raising hell on his own?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they stopped speaking for a while. Yeah.
Who's they?
My mom and my granddad.
Has your mother ever been accused by anybody, anywhere, of being racist or treating them in a racial manner?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Have you talked to your father's people about that?
My dad's family actually liked my mum.
I ain't got nothing to do with liking them. I'm saying, have you talked to them about that?
No.
That's what I mean. That's what you all don't do. I recommend you talk to your uncles and your aunts on your father's side. by yourself, without your father and certainly without your mother around. Go talk to your uncles and your aunts. Don't feed us this line about what you think they think. Go talk to them by themselves and go see what they have to say, because you're just 28 years old. Find out what the woman was they encountered 30 years ago and her family and some of them views. Because and I know it's your mom, but here's the thing, and Robert will bear me witness. I wonder what your mom was doing in college. I wonder what she was.
My dad got together my mum was young, right? My mum didn't go to university. They got together young.
Okay, but here's the thing. You got a white girl who's running around with black dudes. Now, there's only two types to do that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Let's not do that.
Jessica, is your mum's side of the family Irish background?
No, Italian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we know they're not down with it.
Yeah, that's what I explained.
Yeah, but you're just saying just granddad. No, not just granddad. No,
he
way.
was the one.
He was the most vocal. He was the most vocal.
You can say that.
Yeah, but he wasn't alone.
I'm not gonna fight with you over that.
Okay, thank you. He was not alone. He was just the most vocal because as the patriarch, he gonna take the lead on it. But yeah, it's not even like America. We got second and third generation. They just straight off the boat over there. So yeah, he's gonna be about that life, and they're gonna follow his lead. The family's gonna follow his lead.
Yeah.
So that's not gonna be an anomaly. So if you got a daughter who is this determined to go that way, that's not gonna be an easy jump to make. It's not gonna be an easy jump to make at all.
I've said to people, because I can't speak to every culture or every group, but that is one culture that I can speak to. So when I hear people and they do make out that it's all sunshine and roses, no, it's not. It's
and
not
there's racism everywhere. And the only way a person would say they haven't met it is because they're telling you, I dismissed it when it happened. Over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a dangerous way to walk through life willfully blind. The best thing for you, Jessica, would be if you're lying right now or if you're being disingenuous. That would be good, because the worst thing would be if you're telling us the truth right now. If you truly believe this bilge you're saying, that would be the worst thing possible. If you actually believe this. Because can you all imagine her children? How's she going to raise them to be conscious of the world they're in when mom is literally walking through it every day, dismissing it, confronted with it with pearly things? That ain't no white supremacy. Ain't no racism over there. I mean, it's just ignorance. She'll be sitting up there with her children, lambs to the slaughter.
But do you see why I called you a race hustler, right? Because you're trying to get me to...
I'm not trying to get you to do a damn thing.
Racism that I'm telling you I've never...
I'm not trying to get you to do a damn thing. I'm educating everybody else.
Personally,
I'm illustrating everybody else. I'm illustrating for everybody else, ma'am.
Yeah, because I'm saying that I haven't faced it.
Yes, and I'm talking to everybody else. I want them to see that this is what it sounds like for a person who's willfully ignorant or willfully blind in a world of wolves.
Right, so you're trying to force it. You're trying to say that
ma'am,
I have faced it.
You're the one who said it. I'm not forcing anything. These are your words, not mine. They're your words.
I'm telling you that I haven't faced it, and you're saying my words don't matter. You're going to tell me that I have faced it.
No, ma'am. I literally just sat here and said, I hope that you're being disingenuous, because if you are telling the truth, this is what it means. I'm not telling you what you're saying. I'm saying if this is what you really mean, then this is what the conclusion is. Now, by the way,
conclusion is just that I'm just oblivious and stupid.
Well, you know what? If the shoe fits, buy a matching purse. But I want to thank Zoe for sending me the clip about this here, because it's about the clip about Jessica and whatnot. And I'm glad to see that she gets flustered and here she comes. See, this is why I called you a race hustler. But Pearly is not a white supremacist. Pearly's not racist. She's just ignorant. So
I said she's racist earlier.
You might want. What brand of lipstick do you wear, Jessica?
Many different types.
Is it water resistant?
I don't know. Probably.
Does it keep butt hair off? I'm just wondering, because if you're gonna smack on somebody's butt cheeks, I just want to make sure that you don't have something catch his hair.
You can try and paint a narrative.
Ma'am, I'm not painting the narrative. You've painted the narrative with a brush and an easel. You've painted the narrative. You've done it by insulting the intelligence of planet Earth that I'm the only person in London who's never encountered racism in 3 decades. This is an insult to every single black person walking in the aisle. Every single one. This is an insult to them. I'm taking up for them to say, this is an insult. Ma'am, you want to talk about ignorant. This is disingenuous. I'm not forcing you to say anything.
And you're upset
I'm just lighting up I'm illuminating the terrain in which we find ourselves. This right here is embarrassing to them, but it's also an insult to their intelligence. Now you gotta hold that. Now you gotta hold that. That's not for me to hold.
I don't need to hold anything.
Ma'am, you gonna hold it. That's for you to hold, not me.
Because I know my experiences.
No, you just sat here and told us, everybody already heard you dismiss Pearly thinks white supremacy and racism. You dismissed that.
I said she's not a white supremacist.
Yes, and thank you very much. We all assume that this is how you're treating every other white supremacist in London. You're treating them all the same. They're sitting here making nigga jokes. They're sitting up here making indirect insults. They're making indirect insults and code insults to you, and you're dismissing them because that's a lot easier and more pleasant than facing the brutal reality of what you just saw.
So we're just going to create a straw man that I'm just here listening to N-word jokes and just being like,
you're hearing them sitting up here talking about dehumanizing you. Slavery's exaggerated. Well, you're late. CPT time.
I called her out for that.
No, no, ma'am. If you're not calling it white supremacist and racist, you're not calling it out.
Yeah, because it's semantics, right?
No, ma'am. Semantics. You were asked, is she a racist? And you said, no, she's ignorant. Go to bed, Jessica.
It's 7:36 here.
No, you need to go sleep off. Go sleep off a new life. Take a nap. Go to bed. Go to bed.
This is not a genuine conversation.
Hang up the phone, Jessica. Good night.
Earlier on, you did it. This is why I said you're race hustling.
Jessica, everybody's heard your level of denial. Hang up the Zoom.
When I told you how
do you really think if you keep talking it's going to make it better? Do you think if you're just going to talk long enough, you're going to be able to clean this up? Do you really think that's what's going to happen?
No, I'm showing you why I called you a race hustler.
I'm repeating and you are criminally in denial of white supremacy. So let everybody decide which one they want to be. The race hustlers who see white supremacy exists, and the criminally in denial who will see it in front of her face and dismiss it. That's how black folk end up dead.
There's semantics there. And guess what? Like racial
she thinks she's going to talk her way out of this.
Not my thing.
Jessica, everybody heard what you said. Everybody heard what you said already.
That's not my wheelhouse.
Jessica, everybody heard what you said already. You think if you keep talking, you can clean this up.
When I told you how much I earn, you immediately tried to turn it into a racial conversation.
Nobody believes
how much
that.
Do your white female counterparts?
Jessica,
you made it racial.
First of all, you're not talking about how much. You're not talking about where you live. You're not talking about how much money you make. So all of that is fat. Nobody believes that anyway because you won't substantiate it anyway. Ma'am, nobody believes that anyway. I can tell you where I live. I live in Shreveport, Louisiana, ma'am. I can tell you where I live.
How much do you earn?
Ma'am, I can tell. I live in Shreveport, Louisiana. I can tell you where I live. According to the IRS, I'm upper middle class. According to them.
So white supremacy hasn't held you back?
Ma'am, white supremacy is the reason that I wasn't a multi-millionaire at 22 years old. What the hell are you talking about, kid?
But it didn't keep you broke?
Ma'am, white supremacy.
Like me?
Ma'am, white supremacy is certainly the reason I am not further than I am. I should be much further than I am. I should be in Logan Paul territory now.
If you say so.
Do you really believe that if you just keep talking, you're going to clean this up, Jessica? Do you really believe that's going to happen?
Earlier that I spoke too soon, but in this conversation, I can
Okay.
prove multiple times where you tried to create racial situations where there are none.
Jessica,
And that's why
everybody
you can be
heard
called a
you.
race hustler.
Jessica, everybody heard you say that there is no white supremacy and that you've never seen it. At 28,
I never said white supremacy doesn't exist.
ma'am.
Again,
If you've
you're
never
putting
seen
words
it, then
in my mouth.
ma'am, nobody believes you when you say I'm 28 years old and I've never encountered it.
You're
No
putting
one
words
believes
in my
that.
mouth.
No one
You're
believes
putting
that
words
at
in my mouth.
28 you have never encountered it. No one believes that.
You don't believe it, and that's fine.
Ma'am, there's
But
no
you're
one
creating
believes
a
that.
racial line where there is none.
Ma'am,
when
go
I told
find
you how much I
ma'am,
earned,
no one believes you, Jessica. No one believes
you
that.
created a racial storyline to that as well.
Jessica,
Everything, you're creating some
go
sort of racial
to bed.
narrative to it.
Jessica, go to bed. Story time is over.
It's
go
late
to
for you,
bed.
Jason. Maybe you need to.
Go to bed, Jessica. Story time is over.
You don't want to create any more news stories?
Ma'am, you've already spun enough yarns tonight. Call it a day.
I'm not the one making things up.
She's never seen white supremacy and never encountered it, but she's not making it
I
up.
haven't tried to project onto your
The
experience.
rest of Black
at all.
London has seen it, but
But
Jessica is the
while I was up
alien
here
in
trying
London
to do
who's
that to
never
me.
seen it.
When I told you how much I earned, you were furiously Googling
Jessica
in the
has
back,
never experienced
trying
race.
to-
Jessica
trying
has
to
never
find
experienced
something.
racism.
trying to find something to show that white females earn more than me, despite the fact that I earn over the average.
So you
for
say.
the
So you
UK,
say.
And for my age, I earn over the average. And I can send you a link. I'll put a link in the back chat.
Jason,
Right?
can I jump in, please?
Yes, Robert.
Jessica, you live in London. You earn £40,000 a year. That's
Yes.
okay. It's okay, and you can
At my
survive,
age, it's good, actually.
and you can survive as long as you live with your parents. Yeah.
No.
You can't buy a house earning £40,000 a year in London.
No. That depends how much money I have to put down for a mortgage, right? It depends on your initial down payment.
Jessica, where are you going to find money if you earn £40,000 a year?
That's how much I earn. You don't know how much my father earns. You don't
Okay,
know any of that.
All right,
You're just
that's fine.
presuming.
No, but that's fine, because I'll tell you something. You're beating yourself on the back that you're 28 years old and earn 40,000 a year. When I was your age, when I was 28, I was earning way more than that. And that was back in 28 in 2001. Yeah. It's
So
not
what do you
big
earn
money.
now?
A lot.
A lot more.
Six figures.
How much?
A lot
Six
more.
figures.
What
Six
do you
figures.
do?
I'm an IT consultant, and a very, very good one.
How long have you been in that for?
Long as you've been alive?
Yeah.
Been an IT consultant for 28 years?
Yes.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
Did you graduate from university?
I did. I went to Greenwich and then I went to Middlesex. You see, I can be specific here because
When you're not making things up, you can be specific. Robert,
What year did you
don't answer
graduate?
that. Don't answer that question. Jessica, until you answer those questions for Robert and me, there's no reason for us to answer that. You won't even say what side of London you live on.
2017.
Ma'am,
right?
you won't even say what side of London you live
Robert,
on.
When did you graduate?
Robert, do not answer that question, Robert. Jessica, which side of London do you live on?
So we're giving Robert a chance to do the math.
Ma'am, I'm hosting the program. What side of London do you live on?
I'm not telling you whereabouts in London I live.
Then Robert's not going to answer another question
It's for somebody
because
that's
you cannot
protecting their anonymity.
whether or not
But neither
$40,000
can you,
a year
because we
is
don't
good
know who
money,
you are.
ma'am. You cannot
But we don't know who
substantiate
you
that.
are either.
Ma'am,
We don't know who you are.
Kid, that has nothing to do with you.
Right, but then
You're
it's
the one
okay
spinning
for you to
yarns
not
about 40,000
substantiate
pounds a
anything.
year in a nondescript corner of London. Please,
For
this
you,
is grown folks
you don't
talk,
have to
ma'am.
substantiate anything, but then I do.
No, ma'am. What
You
I'm
should be
saying
able
is
to
you're not
understand
gonna
that.
no,
You're
you're not gonna
autistic.
quiz Robert on things that you yourself are not saying here. You're not gonna do that.
Because he's saying that 40K isn't enough to live in London.
Ma'am, it's
And
not
that's-
we don't even know what part of London you're in, so you can't tell us it is enough. So you're probably making it up as you go along. You won't even say which corner of London.
You can rent out, and Robert will be able to confirm, you can rent out a 1-bedroom apartment for 1,700 a month. Am I right or am I wrong, Robert?
In the hood, yes.
Not in the hood, no.
In the kind of places that you wouldn't want to live, yeah.
Okay.
£700 a month.
Give me a nice area. Let's not go crazy. Give me a decent area.
Okay, stop.
You give me an area, but the bottom line is that.
So I'm right then, Robert.
No, ma'am, you're
right
spinning
now,
yarns.
what we're doing is we're trying to create a narrative.
No, Jessica, £1,700 a month out of a £40,000 a year wage is a majority of your.
Yes, half of it.
Tax.
That's going to be half of it.
Yeah. If you earn £40,000 a year, you probably take home after tax probably 28.
We didn't speak pre or post tax, right?
Ma'am, don't even try this one. Don't even try this. Don't even try this.
1,700 a month, right? You'd be paying around 20,000, right?
After taxes, you would be living on £1,300, £1,400 a month after taxes.
That leaves you with 20,000 spare, right? We can add on council tax. Right. We can add on electric, gas, right? We can add those things on. You're still okay. And at my age, it's a lie. And if I have to, I'll do it on mine. I will pull up the average, because I put in the back for you, Robert. Check the link that I put in the back about the average earnings for people by age. I'm doing better than the average person my age.
I don't know the difference between real estate and I don't think in the UK, I don't think they're going to let you move in if half your income is going to go to the rent, because in the States usually it has to be 3 times your income.
Yes, they will.
It has to be 1/3.
Yes, they will.
Then that would be a low. Now you can do it here in the States, but only in a low rent Section 8, what you all call the council. It'll work there.
No, council houses don't take people that work.
Ma'am, mathematically speaking, you would be too risky if half your income goes to the rent. Mathematically, you'd be too risky.
That's not true.
Jessica,
I put the link in the back.
Yeah, but Jessica, we can get on the HMRC website and work out what your take-home pay is if you earn 40,000.
I put the link. Wait, acknowledge the link that I put in the back. Look at the link that I put in the back for the average earnings by age.
Okay, man, that's average. We're not talking about average earnings. You're trying to change the subject. We're not talking about average earnings.
No,
we're not talking about average earnings, ma'am. We're talking about the
initial subject.
We're talking about the rent.
Raise hustle.
We're talking about the rent.
I'm not earning as much as my female
Ma'am, we're talking about the rent.
You keep bouncing from point to point.
You can't substantiate that 40,000
because you're trying to.
Jessica, you can't substantiate. Ma'am, you can't substantiate the 40,000.
I'm not doing.
Jessica, I'm muting you now. You cannot substantiate the 40,000. We're not asking about income. We said about the rent, and you've already given an implausible, fanciful scenario. You're telling us that half your income can go to rent and you'll still be okay, even though you ain't paid taxes. Half of your income, including taxes. So basically, you would have to pay nothing in taxes. Nothing. This is science fiction. You're talking to grown people and you're trying to pass off a science fiction scenario. Somebody who works in finance should know to come up with a better lie than this. Allegedly, you work in finance and you can't come up with a better lie. Don't you know, me and Robert being half a century old, we know to already calculate these numbers within seconds. $40,000 a year, $1,700 a month. That's about $20,000. Wow, half your income goes to the rent?
I put the link for you in the back. Are you telling me that the average person cannot rent in London? You're not making any sense.
After taxes, you're not going to have it. After taxes, Jessica, you're not going to talk over the host.
No, you
after taxes, you won't have it. You wouldn't have it after taxes. That math doesn't work.
You don't want to put the link.
Jessica, that math doesn't work. Right. Jessica, that math doesn't work after taxes.
I showed you the math.
Jessica, I'm telling you the math. £40,000 a year. The only way you can live is no taxes at all.
Are you telling me the average person in London cannot rent in London?
How much?
Jessica, The average person in London is struggling. Most of their money, most of their wages go on rent, and they're left with next to nothing, and they're struggling.
The average person
The thing is,
earns less
Jason,
than me.
okay, even £40,000 a year, you rent, like you say, £1,700 a month. You're not left with much money. There's £1,700 a month. On top of that, your council tax will be about £120, £130 a month. Yeah. Then you got the cost of living. I don't know if you're aware right now, Jason, but gas and electricity, heating and fuel has gone through the roof.
Absolutely. I'm invested in a couple of companies. Sorry.
Robert, how much do you pay for gas and electric a month?
Depends if I have my heating on. Anything between 400 and 700 a month.
For both of them?
Yes.
So for me, if I add it up, and I live in a 2-bedroom house, right? 2-bedroom house. If I add it up, my gas is 200 a month. My electricity is only 100 a month. 300. It's not that expensive.
I bet you have your heating off all the time and you run around turning off the lights.
Yeah, there's no.
No, I don't run around turning off the lights.
Man,
Stop this exaggeration of prices out here. I
No,
live
it's
here.
true.
You live
Look,
here.
Look, Jessica, you can try and lie to people in America. I live in the UK.
I can pull up.
Since the war with Ukraine, our fuel bills have trebled.
No, they haven't.
The cost of food.
Man, it's made headline. What are you talking about? It's made the cost of fuel going up in the UK has made headlines over here in the States.
There are subsidies.
Jessica, I'm muting you again. Do not talk over the host. The spike in fuel prices has made headlines here in America. The spike in fuel prices in the UK has made headlines here in the States. We've heard about what's going on over there. Nord Stream 2 getting blown up and what that's done to the cost of fuel in Europe. We know about the spike in fuel prices in Europe, and you trying to tell us it doesn't apply. It's made headlines here in the States. It's so bad. Who are you trying to fool, kid?
Do you know about the subsidies that are out there? Do you know about the caps?
It's a drop in the ocean. It's pennies in the pound.
Robert, it seems
Jessica, Robert, you know that people earning more than you in London are on food banks.
Robert, stop it. You're being completely disingenuous. You're just agreeing with everything Jason said.
Look, I live here. I just don't want you to lie to me.
You don't live in London. You already said you don't live in London.
I'm in London every other weekend.
But you don't live here.
My mother lives in London.
We're not sure you live there. We're not sure you live there either, Jessica.
Okay.
I can guarantee you I live here. He's already said that he doesn't.
Ma'am, you haven't substantiated that at all, so I wouldn't be throwing rocks. So you say, with nothing else to add to it. You won't even say what part of London, north, south, east, west.
I mean, I live outside London, and the cost of living is lower where I live, and it's still high. It's still high. I have tenants. I have properties in London. I speak to my tenants all the time. Everybody in London is struggling. Everybody.
Robert, why are you not willing?
Look,
why
Jessica,
are you not willing to acknowledge the link that I sent you about the average wages here?
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it.
So am I right?
It means nothing.
Wait, hang on.
Just because you're doing slightly better than people.
I am above average, right?
Yeah, but
I'm above average, right, Robert?
I mean, like I said to Jason earlier,
above average is not affluent.
Yeah,
I'm above average in earnings,
but you're not average. Even average older than me. Even average is not affluent, ma'am. So
am I lying, Robert?
Ma'am, that doesn't make you affluent. I'm telling you. I've seen the link. It doesn't make you. It doesn't make you affluent.
When you're trying to make out that I'm struggling, that's far from the truth. You're trying to create a narrative.
You are struggling, unless somebody else is helping you.
Struggle.
Unless somebody's contributing to your cost of living, 40,000 a year in London, you're struggling.
And we know that that's true. Okay, I'm muting Jessica again. We know that that's true because as soon as you were asked about buying a house, the first thing you said was, well, my daddy can help me.
Yes, because depending on your down payment, right?
Okay, so that's the average in London, is that everybody's daddies can help them with a down payment?
No, not everybody's can.
Thank you. So we got a biracial chick with a silver spoon up her
That's
nose.
Obvious.
Thank you. You've
Can I
proven my
quickly say
point.
something about that, Jason? Yeah, can I quickly say something about that, Jason?
Yes, Robert.
Normally you can get a mortgage 4 times your earnings, right? 4 times your earnings. Maybe if you're lucky, 5 times. 4 times 40,000 a year is what, Jessica?
160.
Right. What can you buy in London for £160,000?
It depends, Robert. We
buy
already
anything.
went over this.
Can't buy
It
anything. in
depends. It depends on your down payment.
Ma'am, you know
right?
we can look.
It depends on your down payment.
Okay,
There are
okay,
also-
Jessica. Okay, let's
There
do
are
this.
also
Let's do this, Jessica.
that is not the only way that it's decided, right? So you're
Jessica.
Okay,
this is what I'm saying. You're
Jessica,
being
don't
completely-
filibuster, Jessica. You were asked what you
Jessica,
can
let's
get.
do
You
that.
You
didn't
don't want the
answer it.
truth out.
You didn't
Okay,
You
answer
guys
it.
are trying to create
You
a
didn't
narrative.
answer it, Jessica. You can just say what it is. You're not answering
You
the
guys
question.
are trying to create a narrative that's not
You're
true.
dodging questions, Jessica. Just tell us
You know what?
Tell us what you
To
can
clear this
buy.
up,
Tell us the square footage. Tell us the square
myself,
footage. Tell us the
I will
square
do a
footage you
stream
can buy.
That will prove
Jessica,
everything that I'm
tell us
saying.
the square footage that you can buy for 160,000 pounds.
I will do a stream because you guys obviously don't want the
Jessica,
truth.
last
I'm putting links there.
Jessica,
I'm
tell us
explaining
the square footage that you can buy for
We're not going to do it
160,000
here.
pounds.
So goodbye, Jason.
Then
I
get off
stand
the
by-
program. Let me go ahead and boot her. Jessica, you're not old enough nor smart enough to tell these bull jive lies. You're too young to be able to pull this off. You're not old enough. You're not experienced enough. You're not smart enough to weave this many lies. Eventually it falls apart. Baby, you ain't been old. You're not old enough and have enough life experience to make up to spin this many tales. You can't do it. You can't do it. It's too easy for somebody else to knock that down. I make 40,000 pounds, $1,700 a month in rent. Whoa, you ain't paying no taxes. Well, I can get subsidies for it. Or, well, what neighborhood you live in? I live in the best part of London. North, south, east, west. Ain't gonna tell you. Okay, what kind of house we're gonna get right here? Well, I can get anything I want to. I can afford it myself because I'm not struggling. Okay, how you gonna get the down payment? Daddy will give it to me. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound like affluent. Oh, how much can you get there for 160,000 pounds? Well, if I carry the 169, march down the street, Essex Road, without ever answering the question. So she's young, and unfortunately, sometimes young people think they can be bull jive artists. Problem, you're talking to folks who you can't bull jive us. We're in this world. I've literally got stocks right now in energy companies based on what happened in the Ukraine. Sorry, Robert. Somebody got to make a dime. So it is what it is. Hey, it is what it is. Somebody got to make a dime. We can't all be struggling. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, they're going to be in trouble here in a minute. I'm sitting here watching lines of people trying to get fuel. I'm like, oh, okay, it's rough on them. Glad I live in Louisiana. Natural gas. But yeah, kid, you're not gonna make it with that. You're not gonna make it with that. Robert, I know what it is. She's just in denial of white supremacy. If you show it to her blatantly, directly, she's gonna tell you what white supremacy. What do you mean? She's been hearing these kind of jokes, this kind of caustic attitude from granddad, aunties, grandma, and she just dismisses it. So she's one of those biracials.
Yeah.
She's one of the biracials who she sees it and she just dismisses it. Well, I mean, they're just ignorant. That's your damn granddaddy. Well, they're just ignorant. That's your uncle.
Jason, I would call it the Meghan Markle syndrome. Some of these mixed people, they think they're white or they want to be white. And they dance around the racism thing. I mean, the Meghan Markle thing is in the media all the time. And, she's always, they get racism and they think because somebody doesn't run around saying the N-word, or spit in their face, it's not racism. They'll try and rationalize it. Oh, well, maybe it's sexism, or maybe it's misogyny, or maybe it's xenophobe, and the reason why she's 28 and only earning 40,000 pounds a year is because she refuses to face the reality she lives in. The reason why people like me and you, Jason, are doing well is because we know the world we live in. We know we live in a world of racism, white supremacy. And we say, okay, we understand the rules and we know what we need to do to survive and prosper. But it's the people who refuse to accept the reality they're in. They just drift around. And because they're earning 5-10% more than the average man on the street, they think they're doing well. You're not doing well. You're still struggling. Whether you're in 30, 40, 50,000 pounds a year in London, you are struggling. There's food banks everywhere. We're talking, the amount of food banks we have in UK, and especially London, you'd think there's a war on in the country. There's people earning decent, what you would think would be decent money, and they're struggling, and once we started talking numbers and started to break it down in great detail, she disappeared. She had plenty to say before, and the minute, you started breaking it down in numbers.
No, the minute we introduced math to what she was trying to say, it crumbled like crackers, and to be that young and to be that invested in it. This is why tonight, my program is not about pearly things. My program is about who enabled this. And what she did was she proved to everybody, when Miss Pearly Things came in the room, she put on her, maid's outfit and said, "Do you need me to dust the blinds?" She just went right into role with everybody else. I did some pushback. Based on what we heard here tonight, nah. No, you didn't. You just got in line like they always do. So, Jessica, you belong in one of them seats on Pearly Things show, sitting there shucking and jiving with the rest of them. She saw you coming from a mile away.
But I'll say this, Jason. She probably identifies with Pearly Things, because Jessica comes across as one of those mixed girls who, they get around black women, and because she's light-skinned and what people she has more European type features. Maybe she can grow her own hair long. She gets around the black women, and maybe the black women kind of elevate her. So she thinks, she probably doesn't even think she's black. She probably thinks she's special. She's one of those people. So when you see someone like Pearly Things come around and then they get hyped up, not because of their skill or their ability, just because they're white, she identifies with that, because she probably looks down on black people herself. And I know that because we have a lot of those in this country, not all of them, but a large number of them who, because they're mixed, they have some European ancestry, they think they're better than the rest of us.
I didn't ask her this, but I know full well it's always the same thing. Do you think for a second that her white mother raised her and told her, "You are a beautiful black girl"? Yeah. Or did your mother tell you, well, you're mixed, you're biracial, and anyone who doesn't get along with that, well, they're just ignorant, without saying, by the way, my daughter is black. Yes, the baby that came from between my legs is a black baby. I didn't even bother asking, because she's going to say, "Oh, of course, mommy was fine." I'm taking a look at the daughter. I can see what the parents raised. You are sitting here in front of a world. You're insulting the intelligence of every person on the planet by telling us that you're the only person in London who has not experienced racism. That is an insult of cosmic proportions. You're literally telling us that you're walking through life in a different dimension from literally every other black person on the continent. That's a damn insult to folks who've had their family beat up, brutalized, locked up, disenfranchised, evicted. You're telling all of them that if they did whatever in the hell you doing, if they would just do that, and you saw she started sliding it in there, well, white supremacy didn't stop you, did it? Oh, you're putting on your coon boots. Jessica putting on them coon boots. Well, you keep pushing me about that. Yeah, because if I push you long enough, you're going to say something like that. If I press you long enough, you're going to say something like that, and the real thing is going to start to come out. Because, Robert, you know where that was going next. Ain't no white supremacy. Well, white supremacy didn't stop you, did it? I'm sitting here telling you that white supremacy exists, and I'm doing much better than you, but I'm still telling you, but that doesn't mean that white supremacy doesn't exist. Well, it didn't stop you. What the hell are you talking about? So that's where you're trying to go. Well, you've met some ignorant people, but there's no system of white supremacy. That's your mama talking. She's claiming up and down that's not her mom, that was granddad. No, that's your mama talking. That's your mother talking on that side of the pond or this side. That's your mother talking. That's the white side of the family speaking.
Yeah. Because what would happen is the mother's probably embarrassed that she has racists in her family. So the mother will raise the child to diminish racism. Because if the mother raised the child properly and said, look, these are instances of racism, she wouldn't talk to the white side of her family because she'll realize they're all racist. So she'll be like, oh, yeah, your grandfather, he says this, but he's just ignorant. That's not really racism. That's just ignorant. It's this. And probably the uncles, like you said, the uncles are probably just as racist. They just weren't as vocal. I know Italians, they are very racist, even compared to the English. Like they're openly, and Italians have that thing where they speak their mind like us. They're not like the English, where the English won't speak their mind. The Italians speak their mind. So, you know, if they have an animosity towards you, they're not able to hide it. So she's probably just, yeah. And I mean, it's sad. When I first listened to her, I was furious. As time went on, I actually felt sorry for her. I really do feel sorry for her. I'm not even angry with her. I feel sorry for her because life's going to teach us some really harsh lessons. And if you don't acknowledge racism as a black person, it's not going to go away. You know, it's not like a headache. It's like a cancer. You have to acknowledge it. You have to deal with it. You know, and if you can't spot racists, white supremacists in your midst, they're always going to get the one over you. You know, like you, Jason, within 5 seconds, you can work out if somebody's a white supremacist. And then you know to have your guard up. You know how you can handle them. If you have to get around them to do business, you get in, you do business, you get out before they harm you. If you're going around thinking there's no racism, white supremacists, you'll bring them into your inner circle and all they'll do is destroy you. You know, and it's really, really, really sad. It's really sad.
Well, you know, like I say, for everybody who was wondering stuff, I've seen Jessica before, so I know the get down, which is why I was saying before, okay, let me put her on Front Street, because I know the get down. And that's why I was like, she's like, why you keep pressing me? Because I know you're lying. I've seen you before. I know you're lying. What everybody is telling me about what you said and what I've seen. I'm like, yeah, I know. Everybody's sitting up here and Jason, they sending me emails and stuff like, I know the get down. That's why I'm pressing her about those things. Press long enough and the truth starts coming out. Well, granddaddy was just racist. Nobody else was. That's physically impossible. Mom is sitting up there where she is. That's physically impossible. My money's straight. Let me call dad. So like I say, it's going to be, Robert, you and I both know how the story ends. She gonna run into a brick wall she can't get over. And when that happens, she gonna be the blackest, most revolutionary thing you ever saw walking in Nottingham. She's gonna be the most revolutionary thing you ever saw when that happens. She gonna cut that hair. She gonna grow the afro. She gonna stop permanent or whatever the hell she's doing with it. That, you know, that's coming. That's what's coming. But by the way, that's the worst way to get it, brother, because that means some incident has happened.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, I think her problem is she's not used to men challenging her because she's young and she's pretty or whatever, she's light-skinned. The men that normally talk to her are the men that are trying to have sex with her. So for her to come across, you know, you talking to her, the way you were talking to her, asking questions, challenging her, she couldn't handle it because she's not used to a man who's not trying to have sex with her speak to her, because, you know, the young guys, they just think, you know what, I'll put up with what you have to say as long as I can get you into bed. So they don't challenge you. They'll nod. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. But I don't know. Yes. I mean, you're more experienced at these people than I am. Normally, once I you know, if I bump into a lady, she starts talking like this, I just move on.
Yeah, you cut it short. You know, like I say, it's not relationship material, but the real thing is I do this as a public education, not just for those of us in the States, but for those of y'all over there, to remind you that, you know, like I know, because I got young cats in the UK who listen to me now, and I want them to, and I do mean the UK, y'all, not just Great Britain and not just London. So for everybody, does he know the difference? Yes, I know the difference. All right, but I got cats in the UK who I want them to understand this and hear this, because that's not innocuous. When you got a female next to you, she doing all kinds of tricks in bed and got you thrilled, but she's in denial of white supremacy. That ain't white material. That ain't wife. I don't know how good a girlfriend material that is. That ain't wife material. She's going to get you crossed up. She's going to walk you into a situation because she's like, hey, I got ovaries. I know I'm okay, or at least I should be okay. She'll either get the both of you took out, but definitely going to get you hurt. Something's definitely going to happen to you because she's in denial. You can't move through life like you need to with somebody who is willfully blind. And that's why I said, at best, you're lying to us. At worst, you really believe what you're saying.
And that's worse. Yeah. If you're lying, then we can work with that. You know, we can get you to admit the truth. But if you actually genuinely believe what you're saying, that's even more worrying. Yeah. Which is why, you know, when I first heard her speak, I assumed she was lying, which is why I was angry, because she was giving an incorrect portrayal of Black British. But then as she continued, I started to think, does she actually believe this? Because you can't be angry with
Half of
somebody
it.
who believes this nonsense.
She believes half of it.
Yeah.
She believes the half that elevates white folk. Everything else she said was a fabrication to try to justify that belief. But she believes half of it. She believes that. How she responded to Pearly things. Take a look at how she's ultra aggressive at me and no lies told on my end, but take a look at how she's aggressive with me. So, like I say, brother, bought sense is the most expensive kind. Bought sense is the most expensive kind. It's better for you to learn from the mistakes of others than to purchase the knowledge by learning from your own. So don't worry, it's coming. That train never misses them. It never misses them. Ask Meghan Markle. I liked her on Suits a decade ago too. I used to watch her on Suits. I'm like, hey, then she started talking. I'm like, oh hell. Then she started talking. I'm like, okay, she was that, I'm not black and this, that, and the other. I'm biracial and everything was sweet till she got over there where y'all are. She was in America and claiming wasn't no racism. Got to UK and I found the racism.
And that's a teachable moment, the Meghan Markle treatment that she's got in the UK, because I think people think that, the British, they're very nice and whatever. They are just as racist, even more so in certain aspects than they are in America. But, you saw how the British people treat Meghan Markle. She's getting the nigger treatment. And even till now, she very rarely calls herself a black person. She refers to herself as a person of color. And as Jessica was talking, she just reminded me more and more of Meghan Markle. And if she doesn't, understand and wise up, she's going to get the Meghan Markle treatment.
Well,
Meghan Markle.
The problem is she's probably already experienced it and just dismissing it.
Yeah.
Which means that she's not going to acknowledge it until something severe happens. And you and I are both old enough to know, baby, at 28 years old, that novelty wears off quick. 30's right around the corner. Radically different the way they're going to treat you. And when that happens, as far as just men, and as we get older, we know, man, when something comes to knock you down, it's going to be a whole lot harder to get back up. When you got fewer years behind you, more years behind you than you do in front of you, that becomes a lot harder to deal with that. Being with a person who denies white supremacy exists is like being with a person who drives down the freeway at 100 miles an hour with no lights on at night.
Yeah.
At that point now, you're just crossing your fingers and hoping nothing too terrible happens.
Yeah.
Robert, it's been a great time meeting you here, brother. I'll let you have the last word.
I'll just say that, I've come on to say that, we are on code in the UK. We are, like the United States, we do have our coon problem, but we are on code. We turn up and, she's not representative of Black British. She's not representative of a Black British woman. She's not even representative of a Black mixed woman. Most of the mixed people we have in the UK, they're not like her. They're not like her. And the Black people definitely not. We turn up, we show up, we understand racism and we fight it here. I know that, in the United States, the children of immigrants are, over there, they're coons. But, most of the people in the UK, they can trace, their parents. Maybe their parents were born outside the UK or grandparents or at most great grandparents. There were virtually no British people in this country until about 1950. So most of the British people were either the children or grandchildren of migrants. And very quickly, you learn in this country that, as Black people, we have to be on code. And we don't have the numbers here, but we still fight and we still understand. And the reason why we understand about racism, white supremacy is because of African Americans, FBA. We grew up, we read Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Francis Cress Wilson. I grew up in the 80s listening to NWA, Boogie Down Productions, Public Enemy. So we understand racism, we understand white supremacy, and we're eternally grateful for the lessons given to us by African Americans, FBA. My parents are from Africa. We have very few Pan-Africanist people in Africa, and that's what's killing Africa. It's the tribalism. It's tribalism, we don't, because in Africa, we very rarely see ourselves as Black people. We see ourselves as something else. It's only when we leave Africa and we go somewhere else, especially go to the West, that we actually see ourselves as Black people. My parents, when they came to the UK, they saw themselves as Nigerians. So they didn't really mix with other black people, you know, Ghanaians, West Indians. You know, I was told as a kid, don't associate with West Indians. Don't be around the Jamaicans. Don't be around this. But then you grow up and you go to school with these people. You realize that, you know what? We're exactly the same. We're black.
Wow, you know, that's interesting, because usually when they bring them over here, it's don't associate with the black Americans, don't, specifically the descendants of slaves, don't associate with them. So that's real interesting. You're saying when they go over there, it's like, there's no black Americans to tell them to stay away from. I had never really thought about that before. So they tell us to stay away from the folk over here too. So yeah, there you go.
And that's the funny thing. So I've heard, like, you know, in America, the Caribbeans say don't associate with the African Americans because they're lazy, useless. You've heard all the stereotypes. But the funny thing is, Africans in the UK, the older parents, not people my generation who were born and raised in the UK, our parents will tell us don't associate with the West Indians for the same reasons why the West Indians are told not to associate with African Americans. And even like in the workplace, you know, the white people will tell me that, oh, you see, like, I'm not racist. It's just that some black people are useless and lazy. You know, the kind of thing Pearly Thing says. And then they'll turn around and say, but you're different. You're Nigerian. You're not like the rest of the black people.
Yeah, there you go.
Nigerians are hardworking black people. You know, you're really intelligent. You all go to university. You know, overachieve academically. So you're not the same as the rest of the black people. And I can assume that when Jessica hears stuff like that, she nods and agrees.
Yeah, she's like, oh, big up. They celebrating me. Here's the crazy thing about it, brother. When they talk to the Caribbean folk behind closed doors, they probably tell them the same thing. Oh, you're not like those Nigerians. You all are hardworking. You really love the British crown. You're really dedicated to the Commonwealth. Those Nigerians are not as loyal as you all are. You're dedicated to the Commonwealth. I can see how you can sit there and play both sides against the middle the whole time like that.
That's what happens. And regularly I have to correct the white people and say, no, you know, the West Indians, they're the same as us because they all came from West Africa. They're the same with us. No, I said, we're the same. You know, whatever's in them is in with us, and whatever's in us is in you. You know, I go to America a lot and I see African Americans and you all look like Africans. So even when people say to me, oh, you know, people from Africa, you're doing better than African Americans. Why is that? I said, we're all the same. We are exactly the same people. And if they're different, it's because of what you've done to them. So you need to look at yourselves as a white person. If African Americans are not reaching or attaining where you think they should be, it's because of what you've done to them. And you've got to make retribution to what you've done to our African brothers and sisters. Because as black people, we are all the same. You know, whatever we have, you know, whatever African Americans have, the greatness is from their African lineage, you know, which is why, you know, whatever we achieve in Africa, you achieve here because you can sing, you can dance, you can make music, you're fantastic at sports. You've got everything that us Africans have. So if you're not attaining, you know, work related or education, it's because of what somebody has done to you, which is why I'm 100% behind reparations. I'm 100% behind it because you've been wronged. And as an African, you know, it's to our internal shame that we allowed that to happen. You know, so when I see Africans talking against reparations or other people, you know, from the Caribbean or whatever, go to America and talk against reparations, to me, it's a shame because me as an African, our leaders should be doing more for you. I mean, I know that's not the subject at hand, but it's, you know, something I feel I have to say. As Africans, we failed African Americans. And if you as an African, you go to America and you see Americans struggling, you should not turn around and say to them, oh, these African Americans, they're useless, they're lazy. I need to stay away from them. No, you've got to go amongst them and say, listen, I have this, I have that. Here's some of it. You know, because as black Africans, we need to give our own level of reparations to African Americans because we allowed it to happen. We allowed them to take millions of our brothers and sisters and didn't do anything about it. And we've been in Africa, we've had our independence for 50, 60 years, and we haven't reached out to our African American brothers and sisters like we should have. We've abandoned you. And that's to our eternal shame, you know.
Because they're trying to tell them that they're going to dig themselves out. And we're just sitting here watching the Russians and the Chinese and every damn body else running over there. And it's like, man, it ain't no way out. That's not going to work. China, the Belt and Road Initiative, man, don't you see they already know what they're going to do. They see China, Africa as a suburb of China. Like, oh, we're going to have that locked up and we're basically going to run it from Beijing. That's dangerous. Well, Robert, I'm not going to hold you here all night, brother, but I'm glad to finally be able to speak to you, man. It's great to be able to meet you, y'all. When y'all hear me talk about Robert and IT in the UK over there, this is the man right here. He's helped a lot of people. I appreciate it. He's a fountainhead of information. He has always made himself available, which is hard because for us over here, it'll be late at night, but for him, it's the wee hours of the morning. But he has always been as supportive as he can be because he's got a life. He got stuff to do. But he has made himself available, and I want you to know, brother, I appreciate it. I appreciate it every time. I appreciate it every bit, and I appreciate everything you've done for us.
Thank you. Be one, brother.
As always, brother Black first, as always, I appreciate it.